welcome back to another episode of Dermatologist Talks Science of Beauty. I'm Dr. Teo Wan Lin, and today we're going to be talking about the role of functional foods, how it plays a part in the aging process, as well as its specific effects on skin.
Yes, in this health-conscious era of self-care, there has been more and more research into the functional foods and superfoods that traditionally have been associated with good health and skin, but are now backed up by data. For those of you who are unfamiliar, superfoods are mostly plant-based foods, with the exception of fish, that are thought to be nutritionally dense and good for one's health. Well, we all know that these superfoods are good for health and well-being, but can they act as anti-aging foods as well? Before we go into that, we have to first understand what is really happening when our body ages.
Inflammaging is a well-established cellular process that is influenced by environmental factors. These environmental factors can be summarized as what we term the skin exposome concept. This encompasses a variety of environmental and lifestyle factors, which include stress levels, disruptions to the circadian rhythm of the body in terms of the sleep-wake cycle, environmental pollution. We know that exposure to harmful pollutants, for example, can change the microbiome signature of the skin, and the role of one's diet in the inflammaging process is also one that we consider a key factor in the skin exposome concept. So it specifically relates to the process known as inflammaging. So if you were to look at the studies done on inflammaging in other organ systems, which is where the bulk of research comes from, rather than in the field of dermatology, you will realize that this accompanies a process known as immunosenescence and cellular senescence, so which we really would describe to a layperson as a process of your skin cells and your body organ cells falling asleep. So they become less and less able to perform their functions. Primarily, the role it plays in the immune system, in immunoregulation and modulation, as well as cell repair. So the end result essentially is a chronic inflammatory state, which we call inflammaging, that's associated with organ aging.
Well, how can our diet or the incorporation of anti-aging foods help with this process of aging?
The basis of nutraceutical intervention in the skin aging strategy, the anti-skin aging strategy, is that you have to first understand the skin is really a composite of the entire body's organ systems, and that the health of your body, your internal organs, will definitely translate into the health of your skin. Now, to what extent this should replace aesthetic dermatology treatments, I feel that the general advocacy for aging strategies has been leaning towards what has been collectively described as positive aging. This is a much more holistic approach rather than a single-minded sort of targeted treatment with just in-office treatments that modifies or reverses the physical science of skin aging with aesthetic interventions, which in many cases have a temporal effect, such as the use of Botox and toxins. So this sort of approach is a lot more sustainable in the long run. So what we understand about current inflammaging cell, animal, and clinical models is that specific molecular pathways such as the telomerase, sirtuins, mTOR, IGF, growth factors, these all play a role in the process of free radical scavenging by cells. So this also is reflected in the skin cells' ability to repair damaged DNA. So right now, we have a lot more understanding about functional superfoods. Essentially, these superfoods are high in nutrients, low in calories. Caloric restriction has been proven to form a key role in preventing inflammaging. plant polyphenols, carotenoids. These are also what we call cytoprotective, which means they protect the cell against biological aging and, in the case of skin cells, photo damage.
Wow, okay, so there's a lot of promising research in functional foods for our overall health and skin. In that case, what do you think of hair, skin, and nail supplements that are currently available on the market? How useful do you think these are on top of regular skincare regimes and treatments? For example, collagen supplements, this is a popular skincare ingredient and supplement that people take. We know that the natural collagen in our skin makes it appear more plump and youthful. Well, in that case, theoretically, it would make sense to ingest these collagen supplements for better skin benefits. What are your thoughts on this?
Now, in terms of existing skincare and hair care supplements available, I think it's best to state that there are very limited studies, peer-reviewed studies that actually, supports the use of these supplements for either the treatment or prevention of skin aging, so let alone as a form of intervention for skin disease. So, for example, for collagen supplements, a lot of these studies are very small, with less than 100 participants in total, and additionally, they are very restricted, say, to the to certain ethnic groups. So it doesn't account for the fact that genetic tendency of Asian women is that they do display less physical signs of aging in terms of photoaging compared to their Caucasian counterparts because of the presence of melanin, which is photoprotective. So for these studies on collagen supplements, for example, it can be confounded. The results can be confounded by the fact that they are mostly done, these studies are mostly done in Asian women. There have been a few studies I would like to point out which do show a positive benefit in terms of skin hydration levels, reduction in skin wrinkles, and in this case it was compared to a group that took the supplements compared to the group in the placebo arm. So it's definitely worthwhile for further research to continue. But as of now, it's quite difficult for dermatologists to endorse these as, a true value-added treatment on top of your, current recommended treatments, which are evidence-based. So the science behind this is that essentially we are supposed to obtain all the nutrients we need from our diet. So if you live in a developed nation, it's highly unlikely that you will be malnourished. How collagen supplements will work is basically on this premise. So they are essentially peptides that are further digested when it's ingested. These peptides work on a cell level to stimulate collagen production by your skin cells. However, this is the theoretical part of it. We don't think that it is possible, for example, to direct whatever you ingest to localize it to a certain part of your body. So in this case, the idea that when you ingest these collagen supplements, it will localize to your skin and the dermis, resulting in more fullness and plumpness is ideal, but we are really not sure.
Yes, if you look at the history behind this, for centuries, Chinese women have viewed collagen as a fountain of youth, from consuming fish collagen to pig's feet to shark fins, all in the hope of smoothing wrinkled skin and keeping joints healthy. Well, it's no different as in the US and the West, as in 2020, consumers in the US were expected to spend $293 million on collagen supplements alone. In spite of the limited research that we see, and lack of quality control in the studies that have been done on collagen supplements, people have not been deterred. The global market for collagen is projected to reach $6.5 billion by 2025. Well, can collagen supplements really replace a good skincare regimen?
Traditionally, what has been borne out by scientific research is topicals that you apply, which really have a good effect on collagen production in your skin. So, for treating pigmentation, for example, we have additional options now, such as non-prescription cosmeceuticals, botanicals, and other dermocosmetics. So these are acting directly on the surface of the skin when it's absorbed through the skin barrier, penetrating the stratum corneum. So in that case, we know for sure that when you apply the cream, it is going to act on that specific area. Now, whether what you're ingesting in terms of that particular supplement will lead to specific cell effects, then we are not entirely sure, and it definitely should just be an adjunct to what you're applying, but rather than replacing it. So in the case of, say, patients who suffer from eczema, who think that just by popping a collagen supplement, they don't have to apply their moisturizers or seek treatment, that is in fact a very dangerous idea.
Well, on the flip side, since research on their efficacy is still in its infancy, can ingesting beauty supplements actually be harmful?
I don't think there is a danger in most of these supplements. If it's something that you are interested in and you are okay with spending money on it, and if you feel that you have positive benefits from it, then why not? So in the dermatology community, I do think it is worthwhile for us to remain open-minded, to do a little bit more research so that with more data, it's possible for us to make a fair assessment on this topic. If you have dry, sensitive skin, eczema, then that's a different story. So if you're thinking you're going to take this collagen powder to make your skin better and avoid medical treatment, and skip application of your, ceramide dominant moisturizers, then I think it is potentially harmful and it's certainly not evidence-based. So at this moment, dermatologists will not be recommending beauty supplements, especially if they're being marketed as oral sort of ingestible moisturizers that replaces topical moisturizers. So that is something that may actually cross over to the part about it actually becoming a harmful practice when people actually think that it's a substitute for proper medical treatment of a skin disease.
Well, there are a few superfoods and natural ingredients such as fish oil, soy-based products, apple cider vinegar, to name a few, which have been touted as beneficial in the hopes of achieving glowing skin. What is your opinion on these? Is it just a myth that, for example, taking fish oil will bring you one step closer to clearer skin?
In terms of superfoods, I feel that we must first define it accordingly, to correct concepts in nutritional science. So over the last decade or so, colorful fruits and vegetables have been identified as superfoods. In particular, from the Brassica oleracea family, which encompasses vegetables such as cauliflower, broccoli, kale. These have been identified to contain potent antioxidants that can reduce free radical damage. And in fact, broccoli is one of the vegetables that has been shown to directly inhibit the growth of cancer cells. So on this level, it is very helpful for individuals who are keen to adopt a nutraceutical-based intervention, which helps them on an overall health level, and knowing that it will translate into skin benefits as well because of the enhanced ability to combat oxidative stress. So the basic principle here is that, plant pigments in these colorful foods, right? So these actually contain important micronutrients that are, antioxidants in nature and can help fight oxidative stress and retard the inflammation process. As an example, blue or purple foods, they contain anthocyanins. Red and orange vegetables, they contain carotenoids. So in cell studies, these extracts have been proven to exert positive effects on skin cells. Now, what you mentioned about fatty fish, it is relevant because fatty fish are a rich source of omega-3 fatty acids, and principally, these are essential for the functioning of the brain. But secondly, it can also encourage a healthy skin barrier because our stratum corneum, the outermost layer of skin, is actually held together by ceramide molecules which are derived from fatty lipids. Therefore, it's very, very important that if you wish to have healthy skin, that you actually maintain your overall health first with a diet that's filled with antioxidants, mainly in this case, we discover it's actually from plants. Additionally, it's important to maintain, good nutritional status, which comes from, a variety of foods and sufficient protein, which can also be derived from plant sources as well. It does take a bit of planning, but myself, I have transitioned to a mostly plant-based diet with some fatty fish consumption since early last year. Tofu, for example, it has estrogen-like benefits. Besides being a rich source of protein and iron, it's also what we call a phytoestrogen. So there have been certain studies, published in nutritional science journals that have shown that individuals who consume tofu can actually see positive benefits in terms of their skin elasticity and reduction of skin wrinkles. Now, for individuals who suffer from eczema, I feel that it's important to understand that, first of all, this is not a cosmetic issue, but it is a true medical condition. It's a disease that needs to be treated. However, maintaining a healthy nutritional status, when you have eczema is critical. In a chronic case of eczema, the body actually loses a lot of protein because of the scaling. The body is in what we call a catabolic state. So it's important to take that into consideration when you're planning nutrition for an individual who suffers from eczema. And we also know that consumption of fatty fish that's rich in omega-3 or plant sources from plant seed oils, evening primrose oil has actually had some studies that link it to improved barrier function. Apple cider vinegar, which you mentioned earlier, is actually regarded as a prebiotic. So on the topic of prebiotics, it's a concept which, is linked to the gut-skin connection. So it is beneficial to your gut. It is a precursor of the active probiotics, but in terms of how it directly affects your skin, I feel that there really needs to be more research. However, we do have early data on the gut-skin microbiome, which is essentially how the health of the gut relates to the health of your skin.
Well, I'm curious to know, in your practice, apart from prescribing medications and topicals, do you normally offer dietary recommendations to your patients as a part of the strategy to obtaining better skin? What are some tips that you usually give to your patients?
Yes, I do offer dietary advice to my patients. If they are acne prone, I advise them to completely cut out dairy products because there has been shown in quite a few studies to have an adverse impact on the acne treatment progress. Now, the other thing, of course, is if they tend to have, oily, seborrheic type skin, then reducing fatty food intake like fried foods or trans fat in their diet will certainly help. For overall skin health, there are a few dietary principles that we can follow. First of all, ensure that you have sufficient intake of fruits and vegetables. There are various guidelines from either the US FDA or in Singapore. We have our local regulatory boards that recommend how your plate should look like. So they say a quarter of your plate should actually be your fruits and vegetables serving of the day. But I go a step further when designing a plant-based diet, which includes other sources of protein and micronutrients, such as from the fungi kingdom. I'm a huge fan of mushrooms, and we know that ergothioneine, which is a potent anti-inflammatory active nutrient, is found in high concentrations in mushrooms and is also a source of vitamin D for mushrooms. There have been exposed to sunlight. So, I feel that if you're able to get your protein from plant-based sources like tofu, when you're planning your plate, for example, you will be able to get additional antioxidant benefits that are present in plants rather than just protein alone. And of course, there are a lot of ethical issues involved in animal-based products. And with COVID-19, still rife all over the world, I think it's a good time for us to consider how we can, engage the environment in a more sustainable way. And that also includes humane treatment of animals. For example, when you ingest tofu, it will not just help your overall health, your cellular metabolism, but we know in this case there is an impact on your skin cells. And finally, let's just try to appreciate that our skin is an organ just like our heart and our lungs. So how healthy you are will translate into the health of your organs, and eventually it will show up in your skin.
We did touch briefly on this topic before, but what are some specific foods that we should include in our diet?
Another tip I have is to take a variety of colored fruits and vegetables. We associate the color red with tomatoes, strawberries. These are commonly found on supermarket shelves. Capsicum, with the bright red external flesh. The reason why we're talking about the colors of these vegetables is because it's an indicator of the presence of the micronutrients. So anthocyanin, for example, red, yellow, green colored fruits, these are, high in ingredients, micronutrients known as carotenoids and flavonoids. For purple colored fruits, we can think of grapes, for example. We know it's the source of a potent antioxidant resveratrol. Blue foods, blueberry, these are very rich in anthocyanins. Beetroot itself is a functional superfood that's rich in a compound known as betalain. Betalain itself is interesting because it's been shown to increase the ability of the body to oxygenate blood, and hence is highly recommended for professional athletes, and overall is also an excellent antioxidant that combats inflammation. So we've spoken about anthocyanins, carotenoids, and, it's important to understand that these have all been demonstrated in various cell studies to have a very positive effect on aging skin cells.
Well, on the topic of well-known superfoods, you mentioned the Brassica oleracea family of vegetables that are very beneficial in our diet. What is it specifically about this group of vegetables that have such important cellular effects?
Brassica oleracea, we mentioned it briefly before in this episode. So what's important in this group of plants and why it's rightfully gained its reputation as one of the top superfoods that you must include in your diet is because it's very well studied in the field of oncology to have cancer-fighting properties. These active ingredients are primarily the glucosinolates, the sulforaphane, and besides being able to fight cancerous cells, they are also antimicrobial. So, you may wonder, why do we even care that our ingested foods have antimicrobial properties? The key here is the link with the gut microbiome and various diseases of inflammation, including inflammation, which is the key process that we feel accounts for the aging process of every single organ of your body. So we briefly touched about mushrooms in the earlier part of this podcast, and I want to explain now how these plant polysaccharides from the fungi kingdom can actually regulate the bacterial flora in your gut when it's ingested. So these are actually a form of prebiotics. So So for Brassica oleracea, we also have found that it's able to stabilize the gut microbiome as well. Increasingly, I believe we will find it more and more obvious in studies we do in the future, the link between the gut and the skin in terms of the microbiome, microbiome activity and science. So just a point to note, such a approach with nutraceutical interventions with superfoods has also been shown to improve certain chronic disease states, such as in diabetic patients. It improves insulin sensitivity, which enables better control of the blood sugars and reduces the chances of getting end organ damage as a result of diabetes itself.
Well, up until now, we focused on a lot of fruits and vegetables, but what about when it comes to meat? I do know that beef, lamb, pork, these are all high in saturated fats. You mentioned the benefits of fatty fish briefly above. Can you tell us more about the benefits of that?
I want to emphasize it's actually really important to have good fats in your diet. Bad fats are saturated fats, which come from meat. I personally have stopped taking animal-based products as well as dairy. First because of the inherent ethical implications of animal farming. But additionally is because the science, when you really examine it, and that's what I've done, it currently tells us that plant-based diets and plant-based sources of protein can be a lot healthier, as well as containing antioxidants, which are good for maintaining your cellular health, from your organs all the way to your skin cells. Now, the fats that I would recommend to include in your diet would be the polyunsaturated fats. These are found in fish oils, tree nuts, and plant seeds. Besides having the four properties of functional foods, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, chemopreventive, and finally photoprotective properties.
Well, that's it for today's episode. We've covered the science behind inflammaging and the role of functional foods and superfoods in this aging process. We've also talked about the evidence, or lack thereof, behind beauty supplements for our skin, and shared about specific superfoods you can incorporate into your diet, and the science behind how they can benefit the skin and overall health. You can follow Dr. Teo on Instagram at Dr. Teo Wan Lin for more podcast updates, and remember to check out our website at www.scienceofbeauty.net for the full podcast transcript.